Hello, sixth grade, and welcome to Math in 5 minutes or less with me. And today we're looking at lesson 87 in Saxon Math, and it is balancing the equation. Remember, what you do to one side of the equation in math, you must do to the other side of the equation in math. Apples and apples, oranges and oranges. So in order to do this lesson, we need to remember the word variable. Remember, a variable stands for a letter that is taking the place of a number, X, Y, or Z, so on. It could be any number. We also have to remember the word inverse. Now, I could use the word opposite, but I like to be smarty, so I'm using inverse. The inverse operation. So if you have multiplication, the inverse of multiplication is division, right? Or vice versa. If you have addition, the inverse of addition is subtraction. And finally, if you have a number squared, 3 squared, which is 9, 3 squared, you will have the inverse of this, which is the square root. Okay? So just remember that whatever you're being asked to do, if the number is multiplying, you're going to be using division to find and isolate the variable. So here we go. Let's go with the first one. We have 6w equals 21. We want to get w by itself. We need to get the variable by itself. When a number is up against a variable, they're kissing. No, they're multiplying. So therefore, the inverse of multiplication is division. If we divide one side by 6, we have to divide the other side by 6. So therefore, you get 1w, which is the same as just w by itself, right? And then it's 21 divided by 6. How many times is 21 divisible by 6? 3 times, which is 18. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to bring down in a second, put in a decimal, bring down. How many times is 30 divisible by 6? 5. So therefore, w equals 3.5. So what we've been doing until this point is pretty much our numbers have been whole numbers, so it's been 36 as opposed to 21 over here. So you're not dealing with decimals or fractions, but now you're dealing with decimals and fractions when you balance the equation. Next one, let's have a look at it. 5n equals 36, okay? So again, we can see right away that that's going to leave us with a decimal because it's not 35. When a number is up against a variable, it's kissing. No, it's not. It's multiplying. Do the inverse of multiplication. The inverse is division. 5 divided by 5 gives you n, or 1n. And now it's 36 divided by 5. How many times is 36 divisible by 5? 5 times 6, 30. 5 times 7, 35. Subtract. Bring down. Let's put in a decimal. How many times is 10 divisible by 5? 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Therefore, n equals 7.2. Good? You with me? So again, remember, we want to get the variable by itself and we want to balance the equation. Let's do 2 more. 0.3 t equals 0.24. Okay, don't be thrown off with decimals in there. They're just in there, right? So, again, a number is up against a variable. It's kissing. No, it's not. It's multiplying. We're going to do the inverse of multiplication, so we isolate the variable. We do the inverse, which is division. We're going to divide by 0.3 on both sides. Whenever you divide a number, whether it's a decimal number, by itself, it's always 1, okay? So we're left with 1t, or t, right? And now it's 0.24 divided by 0.3, which you cannot do. You have to move the decimal. If you move the decimal in one side in the dividend, in the divisor, you have to move it in the dividend. So move it once. So now it's 3 divided into 2.4. Put the decimal into the quotient and start to divide. 2, nope, 24, yes, 3 times what? 3 times 8 is 24. So therefore, t equals 0.8. right? So again, you're starting to see balancing the equation, and we're using decimals. Sometimes you use fractions. It's just the same thing. Just keep remembering what I do to one side, I do to the other. Last one, 0.8 equals 0.5x. I chose this one because sometimes they just put the variable on the other side. It's just the same kind of problem. They're just showing it to you a different way, right? So when a number is up against a variable, it's kissing. No, it's multiplying. To get rid of multiplication, you use the inverse. The inverse is division. Divide by 0.5. What you do on one side of the equation, you must do on the other side of the equation. And therefore, it now is x will equal 0.8 divided by 0.5. Can't do it. You have to move the decimal. Move the decimal one place here. Therefore, you have to move the decimal in the dividend too. Move it one place. So now it's 5 divided into 8. And I can already tell we're going to have a remainder and whatnot. So I'm going to add my decimal and add a 0 just to keep going. Okay? No. How many times is 8 divided by 5? One time. 5 times 1 is 5. 8 subtract 5 is 3. Bring down the 0. How many times is 30 divisible by 5? 5 times something is 36. So therefore, x equals 1.6. So whatever you're doing, balance that equation and use the inverse operation. You've got this. I know you have.